The woman my brother chose to marry happened to be the daughter of a bank executive.
"Please do not come to the wedding,"
she implored. She despised me, a high school dropout working in construction. My brother's the only family I have, yet she threatened to cancel the marriage if I attended.
"Please do not interfere any further,"
she pleaded. Wanting my brother to be happy, I had no choice but to accept her request. However, where was the groom's brother? My absence caused the wedding to plunge into chaos. My name is Ethan Smith. One morning on my day off, I woke up to a call from my younger brother Jake. "Hey, Ethan, you're off today, right?" Yeah, I was actually asleep. I listened to him as I got up and headed to the bathroom. "I've met someone I want to marry, and I'd like you to meet her," he said. I was taken aback, and now completely wide awake. I was delighted to see my brother all grown up. Jake and I had always been there for each other. Our mother divorced when we were young, worked on her own, and provided for us. I barely remember anything about our father, because he was rarely at home. I often looked after Jake, who was still in daycare while I was in middle school, in place of our mother, who came home late from work.
"Sorry, Ethan, I have to go to work again. Here's some dinner. Heat it up and eat it with Jake,"
she would say. Got it. I'll give him a bath first, though. He falls asleep in the middle of dinner these days.
"All right, thank you, Ethan."
One day, our peaceful life was disrupted when our mother decided we would go to our grandparents' house. She left us in the care of our grandparents and never returned. Jake, who was still very young, felt lost without our mother and cried every night. During those times, I read him books, held his hand as we slept, and distracted him from his sorrows.
"Where's Mom? Is she coming home today?"
he asked. It always hurt to hear that, and I don't remember when I started saying I didn't know. Our grandparents, despite being angry at our mother, raised us lovingly. I still remember how happy I was to have warm meals ready for me every day. When I began to accept that our mother wouldn't come back, I realized that I was the only one who could protect Jake. When Jake started elementary school and some local bullies started messing with him, I scared them off by swinging around the broom our grandmother always used.
"Whoa, this guy's older brother's crazy. Run!"
The reason I started thinking about learning boxing was because I had this compelling desire to become stronger, to protect my little brother Jake. In the end, there wasn't any boxing gym available in our rural hometown in Kansas. Instead, our grandpa took me fishing on his days off. Standing in front of the sea, I felt how small I was. When I cast my fishing line into the water, I felt a sense of calm that I didn't usually experience in my busy life. I grew fond of fishing and started leaving Jake in the care of our grandmother to go fishing with our grandfather. I began going every week, and Mr. Brown, one of my grandfather's fishing buddies, also became a friend. I secretly thought that if my father was still around, he would be about Mr. Brown's age, and it always made me happy when I saw him. "Do you have any idea what you want to be when you grow up, Ethan?" Mr. Brown asked me while we were fishing. I want to be a regular office worker, earn money so my younger brother and grandparents can live more comfortably," I said. "Ethan, you've got a heart as big as this ocean. You'll be fine. Just keep doing your best," he told me. Those words of his have saved me many times since. When I started high school, I studied hard so I could earn money. Then one day, my grandmother fainted. My grandmother was admitted to the hospital, and immediately after, my grandfather fainted too, and he passed away. We were able to hold a small funeral after explaining our circumstances to the people at the local funeral home. Knowing that our grandmother couldn't come, my brother Jake suggested that we go to the fishing spot to look for Mr. Brown, because he thought that Grandpa would be lonely. When we told Mr. Brown about our grandfather's sudden death, he quickly prepared and attended the funeral the next day.
"Ethan, I'm sorry to make you worry. I'll get better soon."
My grandmother, who couldn't attend the funeral, seemed dispirited after my grandfather's death. You take it easy in the hospital. We're fine at home. Jake's going to be in middle school next year. He's old enough. I reassured her.
Well then, there are things I should tell you, Ethan,
she replied, and during her hospitalization, she told me details about household matters and financial matters. However, just when we thought she was recovering, her condition suddenly worsened, and she passed away. I had to drop out of high school to work at a construction site to support Jake and myself. I'm going to get a part-time job too, Jake said. You can't get a part-time job when you're in middle school. You need to focus on your studies, I replied. But I can deliver newspapers, he protested. It's fine. I'm earning enough, don't worry, I reassured him. Jake kept offering to work part-time to help out. I want you to study, get into a good school, and go to college, so you don't have to worry about work in the future. I don't mind working as much as it takes for that, I told him. Hearing this, Jake finally started focusing on his studies, entered a prestigious high school, and steadily advanced to college. Now he works at a top-notch company and has a woman he wants to marry. As his older brother, I couldn't be happier. Can I bring my fiancé to your apartment on your next day off? Jake asked me. Here? All right. I'll make sure to clean up. I'm looking forward to it, I replied. On my next day off, I nervously met Jake's fiancée, Emily Garcia, for the first time. Nice to meet you. I'm Jake's older brother, Ethan. Please come in, I greeted her.
Nice to meet you. Do you live here?
She asked. Yeah, this is my brother's apartment, Jake answered while she looked puzzled. But I guess she was just not used to coming into a bachelor's apartment and continued the conversation. Yes, sorry it's so cramped. I work at a construction site and usually only come home to sleep, so I don't mind the small space. I never thought Jake would bring his girlfriend here, I said. I met Emily through a client and we're planning to get engaged soon, Jake revealed. Seeing my brother so confident, I was sincerely happy about their engagement. Emily, maybe due to her quiet personality, didn't say much and just kept giving an awkward smile. She must be from a wealthy family. While we were talking, Jake's phone rang. Sorry, it's a work call, he said, and after he left the room, Emily finally spoke.
You said you work at a construction site, Ethan. Which college did you graduate from?
She asked. Actually, I started working after my grandparents died, and I had to take care of Jake like a parent. I dropped out of high school, I explained.
So you didn't finish high school?
She asked. Correct. Unlike Jake, I never liked studying much, and I've been doing the same job since then, I said.
I didn't know that Jake's brother dropped out of high school,
she said with an audible sigh of disappointment. I don't regret giving up on my education even now. But having experienced the harsh reality of how society doesn't accept me as a high school dropout, I suddenly felt anxious about whether I might end up causing trouble for my brother.
I assumed, Ethan, that you must have some prestigious profession since Jake is so accomplished, but it seems I was mistaken,
she said. A prestigious profession.
It's impossible to regain that now. All I ask is that you don't interfere with our happiness.
I have no intention of doing that. I want Jake to be happy. As I said this, she slightly raised the corners of her mouth and gave a fake smile. I could tell she was forcing it. When Jake returned, she grew quiet again. I wondered if Jake knew about her behavior, but I didn't know how to communicate this to him. Ethan, thanks for hanging out today, especially on your day off. I'm glad you were able to meet her, Jake said, radiating happiness. Not long after, I received an email announcing their official engagement. Then, about a week before the wedding, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Emily.
Hello? It's Emily from the other day. Do you remember me?
Just hearing her speak reminded me of our previous encounter, and I felt a tinge of discomfort. Of course, I remember you. Is something wrong?
I have a small favor to ask of you today.
A favor for me? Is it some surprise for the wedding? there's anything I can do, just let me know. I jovially responded, buoyed by the thought of helping.
Yes, about the wedding. Could you perhaps not attend?
She asked. Excuse me? Not attend? I can't imagine not being there for Jake's wedding. I'm his only family.
You may not be aware, but my father is a senior executive at a bank. It's frowned upon for him to attend a ceremony where the other party has no parents or relatives. So we thought we might hire some actors to attend.
Actors?
There's a service that provides people to play the roles of families and relatives. They'll come if we ask, so we thought we'd go that route.
And Jake is okay with this?
Well, the wedding is for me, after all. I plan to discuss this with him, so could you perhaps tell Jake that you have a work conflict? No, please do so.
I highly doubt Jake would agree to this. I want to celebrate him too.
If we don't do this, we might not even be able to hold the wedding. It was hard enough to get my father to approve of our marriage, so please don't interfere anymore.
You're calling the brother of your future husband an interference? There's a pause on the other end of the line, followed by a small sigh.
I just don't understand why you, with no education to boast of, or any respectable job, feel entitled to attend. Frankly, it would be embarrassing for us.
With that, she hung up. I was left stunned. For the first time, I felt ashamed of myself. Granted, I'm not someone impressive, being a high school dropout, and it seemed that even getting approval for their marriage was a struggle because of me. I didn't want to cause Jake any embarrassment. That was the one thing I wanted to avoid. So I decided to call Jake. Hey, Ethan, it's referee to call. What's up? Actually, about the wedding. I've got a work commitment that day I cannot miss. I'm really sorry, but I won't be able to attend. What? Why? I thought you cleared your schedule for that day. Yes, I had. As the supervisor on site, it was hard for me to take a day off, but I made arrangements for that day. I thought about my coworkers who said, "You have to go on that day. Congratulate Jake for us." And I felt a surge of emotions. I can't get out of it. Since I'm the supervisor, I can't leave. I see. That's disappointing. But if you can make it, even if it's for a short while, please come. I want you to be there. I got it. If I finish early, I'll be there. Congratulations, Jake. Yeah, thank you. Promise me, okay? After hanging up the phone, tears wouldn't stop streaming down my face as I pondered on Jake's emotions. The fact that he wanted me, his imperfect brother, to be present at his wedding was somewhat consoling. I felt as if I had regained a fragment of my bruised self-esteem that Emily had shattered. On the day of the wedding, with no particular place to go, I decided to go fishing to escape my suffocating loneliness at home. It's something I hadn't done much of since I started working, but I always had a favorite fishing spot. It's a place where I wouldn't run into any of my colleagues. As I cast my fishing line, the familiar feeling made me tear up all over again. I was alone, and for a while, I wanted to cry freely. I wanted to release my feelings of frustration, loneliness, and pity for Jake into the ocean. After having a good cry, I suddenly sensed a presence. When I turned around, I recognized a figure standing with a fishing rod. "Oh, Mr. Brown?" I quickly wiped my tears with my sleeve and turned around again. Mr. Brown was wearing a nostalgic smile. "Ethan, it's been a while since you've come here. What makes you look so sad?" "Ha, you are observant as ever." Embarrassed that he'd seen me crying, I told Mr. Brown everything about why I couldn't attend the wedding, laughing and crying as I did so. If anyone could soothe my turbulent heart, it would be Mr. Brown. I had such a hunch. "That's harsh, Ethan. You're an admirable man. There's no reason to feel ashamed. I know that better than anyone else." Stop making me cry. Hey, Ethan, do you think this is the place to be crying? But if I show up, won't I interfere with Jake's happiness? Do you think your brother will truly be happy if his big brother doesn't come to his once-in-a-lifetime wedding? Well, Jake values you more than you think. I remembered what Jake told me. He said he wanted me to come, even if I was late. You should go. Come on, get going. Thanks, Mr. Brown. All right, I'll go. I hurried home to get ready for my beloved brother. Each word of Mr. Brown's pushed me forward. When I arrived at the wedding venue, Jake and Emily were still waiting in the backstage room. Bro, you made it in time. I'm so glad. Next to the joyful Jake, Emily suddenly made a sour face.
Well, this is inconvenient.
Why is it inconvenient for my brother to come?
I had to invite someone to fill his seat since he said he couldn't come. That's why.
Probably some sort of fake relative, I suppose. With the wedding entrance time closing in, Emily seemed more irritable and frantic than usual. I just wanted to congratulate Jake today. When I said this to Emily, she finally blew up.
Ethan, this isn't what we agreed on, is it? Why won't you listen to me? We're running out of time.
That's because I'm Jake's brother.
And what? Brotherly love? I'm so tired of it. How would it look if someone found out that the groom's brother is someone like you, a high school dropout?
Even in front of Jake, Emily yelled.
I'll get my dad to kick you out, so don't move!
Suddenly the backstage door swung open roughly, and Emily's father came in looking flustered. Emily, where is Ethan?
Wait, what? What's going on, Dad?
She asked. One of our bank's major clients just contacted us wanting to close their account. The bank is in panic mode. When I asked for the reason, they said you had...
What, me?
Emily interrupted. Yes, apparently they said they would seize all transactions with us, unless you change your disrespectful attitude towards Ethan. They suspect it's a matter of dignity, Emily's father explained. Emily glared at me sharply.
Ethan, did you do something? Like spreading rumors to damage my reputation on social media or something?
She asked. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't understand how my name came up in this. I replied, completely clueless about the situation. Emily's attitude? Breaking the agreement? You mean the reason you suddenly couldn't come was because Emily arranged it? Jake asked, suspicion creeping into his voice.
That's a terrible thing to say.
Emily began, probably searching for an excuse. I cut off whatever she was going to say. I made up my mind not to come because she called me a disgrace, but I realized I was wrong and rushed over. I admitted.
Hang on, Ethan.
Jake was stunned. Emily, did you tell my brother he's a disgrace?
Because...
Emily stammered, struggling to find her words. Ignoring her flustered state, Jake spoke in a stern voice. Thanks to Ethan, I managed to get through college. I can't thank him enough. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm truly sorry. It's okay, Jake. You don't need to apologize to me. I comforted him. Then Jake glared at Emily. Emily, we're going to have to call off this wedding. That's okay with you, right, Mr. Garcia? If that's what it takes for them to forgive us, I have no problem with it, her father replied. But wait. Emily tried to argue, but her father had already left. He probably had to deal with the bank. And so, the wedding dissolved without the bride and groom even making an entrance. According to Jake, Emily ended up losing her job at the bank due to losing their trust, and her father received disciplinary actions, getting transferred and demoted to a different state. Emily didn't want to leave, so she came crying to Jake and told him everything. But Jake had no lingering feelings for Emily. Hearing about what she had done to me and realizing her true nature had a significant impact. Apparently, her coworkers didn't think highly of her either, and this message from the major client was the final straw. There are lots of bad rumors about her, and it seems there's no chance of her making a comeback, Jake explained. I see. But let's be glad we found out her true colors before you two got married, I suggested. Yeah, that's true. By the way, aren't you curious about who the major client is? I guess so. Who could it be? I work in construction. I don't know anyone who could shake up a bank that much. Actually, there's one person who comes to mind, Jake said. He had looked into who the major clients might be, and one of the company's chairman's names looked familiar. Do you know Mr. Brown's first name? He asked. Mr. Brown? I remember our grandpa used to. Our grandpa used to call Mr. Brown by his first name, often referring to him as Tom, Tommy, or even Thomas. Yeah, I think it's Thomas, I confirmed. Bingo! Did you tell Mr. Brown about the wedding, Ethan? Yeah, I did, but... Jake was grinning from ear to ear as he told me about Mr. Brown. Turns out, Mr. Brown was the chairman of a major corporation that their bank does business with. On my next day off, I went out fishing again. Despite the urgency in my heart, my legs weren't keeping up, and I stumbled my way to my usual fishing spot. Mr. Brown! Hey there, did the wedding go smoothly? Mr. Brown was smiling broadly at his usual spot. Mr. Brown. Ethan, you've been crying a lot lately. You weren't such a crybaby before. I'm sorry for troubling you with my complaints. Trouble? You're my fishing buddy, Ethan. I care about Jake just like you do. It's only natural to help a friend, so don't worry about it. Besides, you shouldn't be thinking about anything when you're fishing. I nodded and sat down next to Mr. Brown, casting my fishing line into the water. All that seemed like a distant memory, as I was back to my usual busy work life. Well, it's not exactly the same as before. There were changes happening around me.
Mr. Smith, I made too much of this. Would you like some?
My typical fast food lunch had recently turned more interesting. That's because the new secretary has been finding reasons to bring me homemade lunches. She was Mr. Brown's granddaughter, and I vaguely remembered her mentioning that she had been the little girl Mr. Brown brought along who used to come fishing with us.
You were my first crush, and I could never forget. I can't believe you just
remembered me. She pouted as she said this, but the next moment she was smiling. I had grown fond of her sunny disposition, and now she had become someone important to me. I told Jake I had a girlfriend via email, and that same night I received a call from him after a long time.
Introduce me to your girlfriend, bro. I'll bring my girlfriend too.
Apparently, Jake had a new girlfriend too. The fishing that my grandfather taught me was a solace to my young mind back then. Now, it's become a bond with the people I care about. It's a sunny day today. According to the weather forecast, looks like we're in for a few days of clear skies. I plan to invite my girl on a fishing date with me this weekend.